Hey guys, this is going to be a 3-in-1 tutorial using drugstore-only products with 2 exceptions, but mostly drugstore. L'Oreal sent me their new eye and lip palettes along with a few other things, so I wanted to put them to work in a tutorial and thought I would just use all drugstore for good measure. So let's go ahead and get started. First up is foundation. This is the Maybelline Dream Velvet. I am in the shade 40 and I'm using a sponge to apply that all over my face. Basically all of the face products, foundation, concealer, brows, blush, bronzer, everything like that is going to remain consistent across the 3 looks. So I'm going to show them right off the bat here at the beginning and then just focus on the eyes towards the last half of the tutorial. Next up is concealer. This is the Wet n Wild Illumi-naughty highlighting and concealing pen. Mine is in the shade Posing Nude, and so I applied that to my under eye area and any blemishes I had around the rest of my face, and then I'm using the relatively new Real Techniques Miracle Mini Eraser Sponge to dab that in everywhere. Moving on to powder, this is one of the 2 products that is not drugstore. It's the Kat Von D new Lock-It Translucent Powder. It's just what I've been reaching for lately, and so it was close at hand, so that's what I used here. And then for bronzer, I used the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. It has a really beautiful satiny finish, so you could use it as a contour, but here I am clearly using it as an olive bronzer, applying liberally before I go in with the blush that I'm using, which is the Essence Silky Touch Blush in the shade Autumn Peach, fitting as we're heading into the cooler fall-y months, applying that on the apples of my cheeks and then working it kind of the way back towards my hairline. Moving on to eye primer, this is the Maybelline Master Prime, my favorite eye primer from the drugstore. This is the matte finish, and so I am applying that all over directly to my eyes and then using my finger to blend that in up to beneath my brow. With all that done, it is finally time to move on to the eyeshadow. The first quad I am using is Boudoir Charm, and I'm going in with that shade in the upper right hand corner. It's this really red leaning, beautiful bronzy brown, and I'm applying that starting in my outer corner, really packing that color in there before moving on to the deeper brown just below it and using that to deepen the outer corner up, kind of working in a reverse order than I typically would with this eye look, but it came out looking, okay, just the same. Then I'm going to go into the cream shade in here and use that as my highlight underneath my brow, or basically on top of my brow bone, as well as my inner corner. And then I'm finally going into that bronze shade and applying that all over the rest of my lid. Then I thought this look could use a little bit of definition on the upper lash line, so I went in with the Infallible Sculpt liquid eyeliner in black. This was my first time using it, so I wasn't quite used to the ball tip of this, and honestly my thoughts are still reserved on it. It's a different type of liquid pen liner to get used to. The fluid flows nice and freely, but because it was my first time, I stopped just short of doing a wing, but we do get to that in a later look. So then I move on to mascara. This is the primer from L'Oreal. I let that dry after a coat or 2 on my lashes, and while I'm doing that, I do my brows. This is the Maybelline Brow Drama in soft brown. I cut that annoying ball tip off though, which is why you don't see it here. I find it much easier to apply to my brows that way. And then I go back in with my mascara. It's the Inglot Longform Mascara, and this is the other product in these looks that is non-drugstore, obviously, but I give my lashes a couple coats of that before moving on to the lips. This is the Le Palette Lip, and it's in the shade, or selection I suppose, Nude 3, and I went in with the shade Cream number 4, applied that using the lip brush. It's really nice all over the lips, keeping it super simple and nice and nude to match the eyes, and that is it for look 1. Now let's move on to look number 2, a little bit brighter, a hint of pink, well, a lot of pinky purple on the lips. You could swap that out for a nude though to downplay the whole look, but I was feeling like a bright look that day. This is the quad in Avenue de Roses, and I am first going in with this satiny kind of camel. It's a great crease shade, so that's how I'm using it here with a fluffy brush, just running that using windshield wiper motion through my crease. Then going into the base shade number 1, or basically a good highlight shade, applying that to my brow bone as well as my inner corner. Then I move into what they call the highlight slash accent shade. It's this beautiful, bright, shimmery lavender, and I apply that all over the majority of my eyelid, focusing on the center, but then kind of feathering it and blending it outward from there. Then last, I'm going into the liner shade, and I'm actually using the sponge applicator that comes with the quad to help build up that pigmentation, and I'm applying that directly in my outer corner. First patting to really build up that color, and then blending inward towards my lash line before taking that brush that I was holding earlier to help blend that in with the rest of the look. The other thing about these sponge tips is on the other end of like what is more traditional sponge tip, they have a liner tool that is actually pretty handy for applying liner to the lower lash line. Once again, I'm going in with that same liquid liner, and here is where I'm creating a wing. Still not quite getting the hang of this ball tip. It's a little harder to create a precise wing, and then even though the liquid flows nice and smoothly out of it, I find that the felt ball tip kind of skips along my upper lash line, so you'll see that it's a little bit uneven. It's not quite the crisp, clear line that I typically like for my liquid liner. Then for the lips, this is another La Palette lip, but it is in the shade Plum 02. And I use the shade Matte 6 to get this lip look. On to the last eye look, somewhat more dramatic, and this is also what I was wearing in my recent hollow nail polish video. For those of you who are asking, this is it, totally drugstore, and it's using the Haute Hazel Quad. So I'm first starting out with what they call the shade number 1, the base shade, but I'm using it in my crease using another fluffy blending brush and just using windshield wiper motions to help blend that out. Then I'm going in with a flat shader brush in shade number 2, this beautiful shimmery teal shade, and I'm patting that all over the moving part of my lid. Being pretty messy, knowing that I'm going to go back in and blend those two colors together, so I'm just haphazardly patting, and I'm also applying that to my lower lash line, focusing on the outer corner. Next up, I'm going into this beautiful deep teal shade. Same flat shader brush, but it does have a somewhat narrow tip, so I'd recommend using something like that because this is kind of a spotlight look where I'm going to apply this shade to the very outermost corner of my eye as well as the very innermost corner of my eye, and then I'm going to connect those two sections right in my crease and then use that fluffy shader brush to blend that out. I also try and mirror that same effect on my lower lash line by applying just a dab of that deep dark teal shade to my inner and outer corner. Then to really make the center of my eyes pop, I'm taking the shimmery steely shade here, which is really more of a glittery overspray almost, and patting that in the center of my lid before finishing off the look with mascara and false lashes. These are the Ardell Glamour lashes in 113. Some of my favorites, also from the drugstore, so very affordable. And that completes the eye look. I experimented with a pink lip from the third La Palette lip in the shade Pink 01, but didn't really complement this look. I decided to go back to the nudes. And so from there, I used matte number 2 all over the lips and then went into the highlighter shade. All of these palettes contain a highlighter shade, by the way, which I really like for making the center of the lip pop and make it appear more full. But I went in with that highlight shade and pat it just in the center of my lips. And that's it for look number 3. I really hope you guys enjoy learning how to create all 3 of these looks. Let me know which one you would like to try or plan to try, or which one was your favorite in the comments below. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye guys!